In the final days of World Championship Wrestling, a powerful alliance took control. They had the biggest names, the biggest power, and yet their story was never finished. In early 2001, WCW was fighting for survival. Ratings were collapsing, fans were leaving, and behind the scenes, chaos had taken over. Meanwhile, their biggest rival, World Wrestling Federation, was dominating the industry. But WCW had one last idea, one final attempt to regain control. A dominant faction, led by legends, designed to bring order back to a broken company. They called them the Magnificent Seven. This wasn't just another storyline. This was WCW's last major narrative before it closed forever. And the most shocking part, it never got an ending. To understand the Magnificent Seven, we need to go back. WCW had once been the most powerful wrestling company in the world. In 1996, they changed wrestling forever with the creation of the New World Order. Stars like Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall helped WCW defeat WWF in ratings for 83 straight weeks. But success didn't last. By 1999 and 2000, WCW was in decline. Creative direction became inconsistent. Storylines lacked structure, and leadership kept changing. In late 2000, WCW tried to reset everything. They brought back one of the most respected figures in wrestling history, Ric Flair. Flair wasn't just a wrestler anymore. He became the on-screen CEO of WCW. His mission: restore order, restore power, restore WCW. And to do that, he built a group. In January 2001, the Magnificent Seven was born. At its core was Ric Flair. But he wasn't alone. This faction included Scott Steiner, the dominant WCW World Heavyweight Champion; Jeff Jarrett, a key political figure backstage and on-screen; Lex Luger, Buff Bagwell, Rick Steiner, and Road Warrior Animal. Together, they represented power. They controlled championships. They controlled matches. They controlled WCW itself. At the center of it all was Scott Steiner. As champion, Steiner was portrayed as unstoppable, brutal, aggressive, dominant. With Ric Flair backing him, no one could touch him. The group quickly became the top heel faction in WCW. They used their authority to manipulate outcomes. They interfered in matches. They protected each other. They made sure power stayed in their hands. But there was resistance. One man stood against them: Diamond Dallas Page. DDP became the leading hero fighting against the Magnificent Seven. He challenged their authority. He challenged Steiner. And he represented the fans' last hope. At the same time, another major force was rising: Bertie. Booker T had already proven himself as a top star, and now he was positioned as WCW's future. Throughout early 2001, WCW programming revolved around Steiner defending the title, Flair abusing power, the Magnificent Seven dominating, DDP and Booker T fighting back. But something felt different. There was urgency. The story was moving fast, almost rushed. Behind the scenes, WCW wasn't just struggling. It was collapsing. March 2001. Everything changed. WCW was officially sold to the WWF. The company that once dominated wrestling was now finished. On the final episode of WCW Nitro, Booker T faced Scott Steiner for the WCW Championship. Booker won. It was a symbolic moment. The future defeating the past. But what about the Magnificent Seven? There was no final battle. Conclusion. Resolution. Ric Flair's power storyline. The faction that was meant to save WCW disappeared overnight. Their story was never finished. The Magnificent Seven represents something unique in wrestling history. It wasn't just a faction. It was WCW's final attempt to regain control. A group filled with talent, built around power, designed to lead the company forward. But timing was against them. WCW didn't fail because of this storyline. But this storyline shows just how unstable things had become. No long-term planning. No proper ending. Payoff. When WCW died, the Magnificent Seven died with it. And their story became one of wrestling's greatest what-ifs. Today, it stands as a reminder. Even the biggest names, even the strongest factions, can't survive when the company itself is already falling apart. This was the final chapter of WCW. A story without an ending. And sometimes, those are the stories we remember the most.